to the Prowisdom series of interviews where we bring in industry leaders, experts and subject matter professionals who share their life journey with us, tell us their wisdom, the lessons they've learned from success, from the challenges which they faced in life and what they are today. So join me in welcoming Mr. Lokesh Mehra, who brings in 25 years of work experience. He is currently the Director of Education Services in Symantec, and he has a checkered career having worked in the education domain in companies like Microsoft, Cisco, Intel and IIT. Welcome, Mr. Mehra.
Thank you, Puneet, and thank you very much for calling me and inviting me to your office and having a discussion with you on this.
It's a pleasure to have you with us. We know that your motto is to help India become a knowledge economy, and your focus is in e-learning, skill building initiatives and the MOOC. So guide us a bit about your current initiatives, sir.
Sure. So right now I am with an organization called Symantec, which is a world leader in cybersecurity. And the mantle that I have right now is to build a vertical which would look at skilling people in this specific area. You would have heard the Prime Minister talk about it in Digital India on July 1st, as well as at the NASSCOM Silver Jubilee anniversary, where he said that every government head, whoever he is meeting abroad in his visits, as well as those who are visiting India, have talked about this topic as a very big concern area. So there's a huge issue in terms of, with everybody going digital, how do you ensure that safety is priority number one? In fact, you've hit on a very salient point. What has happened is NASSCOM, being the national nodal body which is looking after IT and the ITS sector, has come up with a study, and they have a cybersecurity task force which has mentioned that there is a shortage of 1 million cybersecurity professionals. And we're looking at this industry to become a $35 billion industry by 2020. The requirement is extremely huge, with the Parliamentary IT Committee sharing information that we have currently only about 65,000 professionals. So you can see the gap. It is very high, and there is an impetus by the government and DEIT to show that you can have more and more people take up this as a profession. So yes, to answer in short, there is a huge demand and you need people to jump into this. So it's a two-pronged approach. Corporates, as in when they are going more digital in nature and looking at marketing initiatives as well as going on the cloud, they realize that privacy and security are two concern areas that they need to be cognizant of. From a student's perspective, as in when they use social media or they are utilizing their mobile or any device of any form factor, it is important for them to know the basic nuances of cybersecurity. So I think it is imperative for both these entities to be aware of how cybersecurity is going to impact their lives. And it's good if you are aware of what you should be doing to keep yourself safe.
Nobody bothers to go through the terms and conditions. Is it advisable to go through that, what data is being utilized by the companies who are giving us an app for free? Is that an area of concern?
Interesting question. In fact, the recent Internet Security Threat Report, which was launched by Symantec for 2015, showed that 74% of the apps have malware in them, and that is in the Android world. So we don't know what is exactly going to happen when you download an app and accept it without understanding the terms and conditions that are there. So first of all, you should know the app that is being downloaded. Number two, you should be aware of what exactly is the information that they're going to capture. What we term in the industry is called as PII, personal identifiable information, which comprises of your name, your date of birth, your email address, etc. It is imperative for you to know how it is going to be utilized by that particular company or by that app. Students specifically love to do what is called as check-in. They go into a location and do geo-tagging and check-in, etc. But it's important for you to know that any stalker who may be there, maybe figuring out that you are at this particular position, you're X distance from home.
How did you begin your career leading up to Symantec?
Sure. So it's been an interesting journey. I, like all other students of my age group at that period of time, wanted to earn a quick buck. That was the primary prerogative for me, and everybody told me that either you can become a doctor or an engineer or a CA, but I couldn't do any mugging, and I thought I was good at possibly numbers. So let me get into engineering, and I was lucky enough to graduate from engineering. And I started my career with Crompton Greaves, which was specifically to look at selling fax machines. Way back in the 90s, nobody was aware of how a fax machine works, and each machine used to cost approximately about a lakh or two. And when you go and talk to corporates, they were very surprised of how you could send information from one end to another and get an exact replica, because that time email was also not available.
True.
So it was very tough selling out there, but I think that made me the man I am in terms of going and knocking doors, doing cold calls, working out what your funnel would be. In between, the mentors or the seniors who were there in the industry said, look, if you want to grow into a manager, it's important that you also do a management degree along with your engineering, because that is the way the trend was, that everybody who would have a technical background cannot grow in stature unless he did a management degree.
Okay.
So I couldn't afford a management degree at that period of time, and I said, okay, let me try and do it part time. And I enrolled with an institute and got through the test, etc., and worked my way through and did my management degree. And I was fortunate enough that I got picked up by NIIT to lead the business development for a new multimedia vertical that they were opening. Would possibly say that I have 3 lessons that I learned from this. The first and foremost lesson I would say is purpose. When we are students, we generally we drift and we follow the trend, who's doing what, let me also jump into this. But I was very clear that I wanted to be in the technical part, and I also wanted to be in the management side, because that is what makes you go up. So I think that purpose was very clearly defined. Number 2 was in terms of play. I was good at sports. I represented my state also in swimming, and I continued that passion along with that, though now my health does not permit me, and I've lost that appetite to do it. But I would say keep your passion also alive in this area. It is very, very important. Third thing, what I would say is specifically in terms of, I would ask the people is to pursue their interest. For instance, when I got into the education field, or when I was kind of thrown into this field, I realized I have very less information. When I went and talked to the academicians and to the big researchers, they used to throw very big words at me, and I used to feel very timid in front of them. Then I said, why can't I also learn about it, and let me go ahead. And another thing that I would like you and the students specifically to understand is, there are few components, or one of my managers asked me, Lokesh, what would be the advice that you would give to yourself when you had joined your engineering? So I have 3 things that I would like to share with you. The first and foremost thing, what I would say is, learn to make mistakes, because as you learn to make mistakes, people come, they tend to correct you, and you take that advice and you build yourself to be a better person. So that is very, very important.
Okay.
That's the first priority that you have. The second aspect that I would like to exactly indicate is more to do in terms of your passion. If you don't have an appetite for getting into something, I would say that this would not be a good field for you. You get pressurized by your parents, you get pressurized by your colleagues, peers, etc. But if you don't like doing that thing, it becomes a drudgery for you. So it's very, very good that you build your passion, or if you're not too interested, see if you can learn from that and jump into it. So that is the second most important thing that I would say. The third thing is in terms of intellect. It is very important for you to be in people who are beyond your circle of influence. So networking becomes very, very critical.
Okay.
Look, being in your comfort zone with your own friends, your own circle is good. But you will learn only when you jump out of that and go and interact with new people and who have something additional to share with you. So networking becomes very, very important, especially in our field. I mean, in the IT and the ITS sector, if you don't go and meet people, you'll never know what are the new trends and technologies, what's going to happen, how is it going to impact you. So that's very, very important. I have an interesting example to share with you. And Puneet, in fact, I also learned about it a couple of months back.
Sure.
When Albert Einstein died, I don't know if you're aware, but some thieves dug out his brain, and I mean dug out his body, and they removed his brain to see how is it different from a common man.
Okay.
And they realized that his brain was totally the same as any normal human being. It was just the hunger for learning. And
Wow.
that's what made him, the man he was. So that's very, very important. It was a very good anecdote for me to learn that, people even at that stature